It looks like we have a very good group of people listening in, and we're very happy to have you. Welcome to the New York City Charter School Center's annual BEDS informational webinar. We are delighted to have the New York State Ed Department information group, the whole team. And at this point, I would just like once again to remind you, we're not going to open for people to comment or talk during the webinar because we have a tight time frame and a lot that we want to give you. There are a couple of new things coming up this year that we want to make sure you're aware of. And so without any further delay, I'm going to turn it over to the SED team and all the members of that group. For that, welcome Ellen and SED.
Good morning. Thanks everyone for joining the webinar. We hope that you find it informative. So I think we'll just jump right in and get started. Okay, the members of the team. All right, we'll start by talking about BEDS Day and our submission deadlines. So as you may know, BEDS Day is always the first Wednesday in October. So this year, BEDS Day was yesterday, October 7th. That's when we opened the online data collection form for the IMF, the Institutional Master File. The due date is expected to be November 13th for the IMF forms. We'll hold everyone to that deadline for now. And January 29th for the EPMF forms. Those are the Electronic Personnel Master File forms that are filled out by all of the teachers. So again, our electronic application is available via the IRS portal. We also have paper copies of the forms and instructions and a What's New page that you can find at our web link right here on the screen right now. We do have a change in the IMF form for this year, and that is question 29 on the form, which concerns school year minutes and extended learning time. That question has been greatly expanded over the collection from last year, and we'll have time to take a look at that question a little bit later in the presentation. So rather than going through the IMF charter school form question by question, I just wanted to present to you some of the different categories of data that are collected on that form. So we are collecting student suspensions for the 14-15 school year. The student suspension data is collected by race, ethnicity, as well as by gender. We are collecting professional staff counts in aggregate on the IMF form as well, and that collection is by race, ethnicity. We are collecting data for computer and technology resources. We have questions included about your library media center and the collections that it houses. We have attendance data that's collected as a single percentage for the entire school. We also collect the free and reduced price lunch counts on the BEDS IMF Charter School form. This is the official source of free and reduced price lunch data that you will see reported in your school report card. That is even though some of you may be reporting free and reduced price lunch through SIRS, which is the Student Information Repository System. We will continue to keep the official source for the FERPL data for charter schools in BEDS IMF for the foreseeable future. We also have questions on alternative education programs, as well as career paths and work-based learning experiences. We collect the counts of applications and admissions to your charter school, as well as Title I information by the type of program. We collect teacher vacancy data by certification area. And again, this is the new expanded question for this year, which is the extended learning time question. So here is a look at the new expanded question. It is quite detailed. We are asking people to respond and tell us what their accountability status was for the previous school year, for the 14-15 school year. We asked them to enter the required number of minutes by grade. And we can scroll down to the next slide. We are also asking them to report the number of minutes of extended learning time by grade in Part D of that question. Then we get into details about the type of expanded learning time that is provided, again, by each grade. So you can see the different types of categories of expanded learning time, longer school year, longer school day, and so forth. Part F of the question asks to indicate the targeted number of students for each type of expanded learning time that is offered. Again, it's by grade. And the average daily attendance for each type of expanded learning time by grade is also requested. Then we get into questions about community-based partners that are supporting each of the different kinds of expanded learning time and funding sources. All right, and now I'll turn it over to Jeff, and he'll walk you through the PMF part of the collection.
Good morning. Most of you are familiar with the PMF collection. The information collects attributes about the staff persons as well as the assignments that they're teaching. Historically, it's been collected in the form of bubble sheets that were submitted to SED and scanned and populated our tables here. In 15-16, actually in 14-15, we transitioned that paper-based collection into an electronic submission, leveraging the teacher authorization and access accounts where teachers could view their roster data. This is now the point where they can complete their EPMF forms as well. So in 15-16, all districts, BOCES, and charter schools would complete the EPMF forms, and you see the web address there. That's where anyone can go with an active TA account to log in and find access to the EPMF forms. There's a change for non-teaching professional staff this year. These people were traditionally the staff that completed pink or blue bubble forms. This is new for charter schools as they have not submitted non-teaching professional staff. These people will not be using the TA system. It will not be submitted by the staff person, but rather they'll be using the Level 2 staff snapshot and staff assignment templates to submit that information. They should already be familiar with the staff snapshot template, as that collected the teaching staff attributes, and the staff assignment is the template that collected principals in prior years for TSDL purposes, but it will also collect the same non-teaching assignment codes for all non-teaching professional staff. As I said, the staff assignment is new this year. If you haven't used it for your non-teaching professionals before, and the Department of Ed has partnered with Eastern Suffolk BOCES to manage the data reporting as well as the help desk. So that should be a nice enhancement for charter schools to be able to leverage their expertise and resources. And we've been instructed to let the charter schools know that they're there to assist with the reporting of staff data to Level 2. Each school district will designate a data specialist to attend training and how to use the application to report staff. And the BOCES portal will replace the staff snapshot used last year. Steps in the process are familiar, and schools will report the data for all teachers and non-teaching professionals, as I said. Only teachers, again, will use the EPMF form. I really want to emphasize that as we've had a lot of non-teachers attempting to log into the e-services and access the TOS system, and they're not going to be receiving PINs. Again, the districts, BOCES, charters will be submitting staff data for non-teaching professionals. Another good point here is that returning teachers will use last year's information, the email or the username for TOS. You do not need a new PIN. The PIN will travel with the individual. So if they've moved to a location, they don't need to get a new PIN. If they already have an active TOS account, they will just log in with the same information they used last year. If they have issues with logging in because they don't recall their username, they can reset their password. I did provide a little bit of background already. Excuse me, somebody is not on mute. Somebody, you may want to mute your phone because we can hear another conversation. I talked a little bit about the EPMF application already, and the website is there again. So there's some important dependencies with regard to the EPMF application. Okay. In order for the TOS application to be visible, staff snapshot records need to be uploaded to level 2 to the data warehouse, and that if there's a valid staff record for each person, when they log into the TOS system, they'll have access to their EPMF form there. As I said earlier, the TOS system will provide access to the TSRV or roster data as well as EPMF data. Again, the PIN will travel with the person, and PINs are generated for teachers who do not have active TOS accounts. So those that currently do already have an active account will use the same PIN as they have in prior years. The PINs, some teachers were under the notion that they could receive their PINs from SED. They are distributed by the district or the charter school directly to the teacher who would need a new account. So any teachers would have to see their administrator or the data coordinator or the individual that's managing the PIN distribution. There's a timeline here.
Excuse me. Okay, if I step in for just a moment?
Sure.
All right. There are a lot of questions at this moment about the questions that would be on the EPMF, on the staff snapshot or staff assignment. Just so that you know, a lot of those questions we'll answer for you afterwards in an FAQ, but that most of those answers are going to come from Eastern BOCES. They are managing this process. So, for example, to get a PIN to get a new teacher, we'll get a PIN after your staff assignment list is submitted. New teachers will get them. They'll get them sometime between a week and 10 days afterwards. Teachers who already are in the system, returning teachers, whether they're returning to this school or another school, will be using last year's information. And as I believe was just mentioned, there will be an administrator in each school that will be able to help access and find those original email and access points. But there will be plenty of information on the help desk and on the website at BOCES to guide you in this process. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. And I just want to amplify that, your remarks a little bit. The staff snapshot template being submitted up to level 2 really is crucial, and teachers will not be able to see their EPMF forms in the TOS system unless there is a staff snapshot record. So it's imperative that administrators or someone in the charter school let teachers know when they've loaded staff snapshot data, and that now would be a good time for them to go in at this point and complete their EPMF forms. At this time, I do not see any charter schools that have loaded that, so teachers shouldn't start looking for that information this week. This timeline is on our SED website, and I think later on in the slideshow we have a slide with some links and some information, and there's a section there for teachers as well as administrators. And most of the questions that will probably be posed can be answered right from that information that we have there. So again, this is a timeline. We're looking for all teachers to have submitted their forms by January 29th. But some school districts and some charter schools may want to give their staff a shorter deadline rather than waiting until the last minute, and they can certainly do that. We'll also have an administrator review period. This follows along the same schedule that we had last year, where administrators can go in there and make corrections and review teacher forms to make sure they're complete. So I'll talk a little bit about the teacher process at this point. This is the top login or landing page, and here's where the teachers, this will be the starting point for teachers to access the EPMF forms. If they forgot their password, their username, they can follow the links there, and that will allow them to reset passwords, or it will ask for security questions. It's probably a good idea for teachers to go into this knowing what their teach ID is. If they have that information, that will make things a little faster if they have a problem with a password or username. Again, so once they've logged in, this would be what they would see for their particular school. There may not be any TSRV or roster data out there. That information isn't available usually until January or March, but they would click on the EPMF form. And here's an example of a teacher's form. The information in the top box is leveraged from the Office of Teaching Initiatives database. So the teach ID and the date of birth have to be correct, or they're not going to see any information here. Some of the other information in the boxes below, those attributes about the teacher, are pre-populated from the prior year. For example, the total number of years employed, we would take what was submitted last year and then we would add a year to that. So they can review this information, and if it's not correct, they can correct it here. Some of the other information, for example, the salary, they would have to put that in there themselves. That's really important to point out here is there's a default down in the employment information. I work at multiple locations or one location. The default is going to say multiple locations. Charter schools don't have to be concerned with that, since if they're coming in staff snapshot template with only one location, the charter school building. So that's not something teachers should be overly concerned with. So that was the screen that they'll see about their information. Then it will allow them to add assignments. Again, this is, most of the teachers have been through it one time already, so hopefully it'll be a little smoother this time around. But they can simply, there's a couple of different ways they can add an assignment here. There's a search box that will allow them to put in the assignment code. We're also going to have a PDF document up there that lists all the assignment codes. And they'll simply, follow the directions there, add an assignment. They'll choose the registration or the numbers of students within the class. There's going to be certain courses that are locked down in terms of the course status. If they're designated as core courses by the state, the teachers will not have the option of choosing something there. So I think that's actually a very good enhancement that we didn't have in place when they were completing bubble sheets. Excuse me. They can save their form once it's completed, or even if it's not completed, and return to it. Once they submit that form, it's locked. Only an administrator can unlock that form for them so that they can come back to it. So here's an expanded view of the assignment information. You see they're going to just be able to click from a drop down and indicate the correct information. And there's a link up there so that they can pull down the assignment code booklet that they're, if they're more comfortable doing that rather than doing a search term for the assignment. So I did talk about this already. It's important that they know that once they save the form, they can return to it. Once they submit it, they can't. But they do need to hit submit to finalize the form so that SED can use it. If during the review period, if there's teachers that have not submitted their forms but they're complete, the administrator can go in and submit the form to finalize the information. So the administrator review period will take place after the January 29th final date for teacher forms. They will be locked for teachers at that point, and the person identified as the administrator or the reviewer for the forms in the charter school will be responsible for making any corrections and updates at this time. Again, this information is posted on our website, and there is a section for the administrators to review, so I won't go through all of this again. The main point is here that administrators need to be entitled through the SEDAS system for them to have access to this information, and their entitlements for TA will be, if they want to be able to review the forms, it will be the second entitlement there, the TA, TSRV, EPMF. So if they're wondering why they can't access or review their forms, they should check their entitlements through the SEDAS system to make sure they have the proper entitlement. This is an administrator review of what they would see. You can see we removed some personal information there. But the administrator, after logging in, would essentially see this list of all their teachers. And then we'll give them an account status of their roster data or their TSRV, but over the next couple months, they're going to be concerned with what the PMF status is. So the submitted forms are those that are already locked for the teachers. They would review those. The incompletes may be saved forms that didn't finish. And then you've got no accounts. So we have a teach IDs there because those people were submitted by the charter school in their staff snapshot. They may have been provided a PIN from the school, but perhaps they never went into the TA application and opened up their account. So those would be the people you'd really have to get after to make sure that they do that. Another note on the review, it doesn't have to occur after the closing period for the teachers. Some administrators start right from the beginning, and they can review the information either through here, which is manageable if you don't have a lot of teachers. We also have Excel files at the bottom that will be populated with the information based on what's in the forms. And there's another look at the Excel files. There are going to be two files. One will contain all the assignment information. The other file will contain all the attributes about the teacher, the year's experience, and that other information. After the administrator review period ends, you will need to verify all the PMS. This can be done with one click. You don't have to go through each individual form and verify it. But you'll basically be saying here that you've reviewed them and they're good to be submitted to SED. Again, they have to be in a submitted status. So if you're looking at your PMF status, and that will allow you to sort by the different type of status, anything that is not in a submitted status will not be used by SED for reporting. Another thing about the status, if there were teachers that filled out forms and left, or they should not have filled out a form for some reason, what you can do is unsubmit the form if it's already been submitted, or leave it at an incomplete status, and that way we won't be taking that information. A few tips about the information that's going to be submitted to SED. The staff snapshot data has to identify that individual as a teacher. Field 8 on the template is the job description for teacher. So you're going to be putting your non-teaching as well as your teaching staff into staff snapshot, but only those individuals that have the word teacher in caps in field 8 will generate an ePMF form. The BOCES will assist with this. And I've already talked about the ability for teachers to save and submit forms, and that the SEDAS application is what's going to entitle administrators to have access to that information. Here's the resource page that I spoke about earlier. SED has a new teacher staff landing page. If you bookmark this, it should make it easy to get to wherever you need to be, and it ties together the different systems that were used for collecting and reporting staff data. And as you can see, there's a timeline there. There's guidance for administrators as well as teachers, and the assignment codes can be found here as well. Last year, Information and Reporting instituted a health center, a new application. It's data support is what it's referred to. It's replacing the DataQuest email system that some people are accustomed to. All information, questions about staff data can go through data support right here. It also, it's tied together with the TAS system. So if the teacher is stuck within the TAS system and they can't find a way to help themselves, either to reset their password or change their username, they can link to this information here. There's categories and a lot of content. There's really a library of content and FAQs within here. But from TA, it will also allow them to submit a ticket if they're stuck, and they can send that to SED. So last year, starting on Beds Day for this first 5 months after the first week in October, I think the office handled almost 7,000 tickets. So, you know, out of 150,000 teachers, I guess that's not too bad, but it is a very efficient way for us to get information back. So again, for any information not related to staff data, they can continue to use DataQuest. For staff-related data, PMF-related data, they can use the data support system, which is integrated, as I said, with the TIE application. Okay, here we go. Questions?
I think the questions are typed in.
So Jeff, do you want to pick up the questions that are already listed here, or do you want me to read them off to you, and let's have you guys make some responses?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. All right, so we're going to work from the most recent questions, because they're closest to the end for the moment.
Okay.
Data support
sorry.
nyscd.gov website asks for an email and password. Do I need to register for this, or can I use the same credentials that I use for NYSED Business Portal?
We're only, through data support, we're only asking for an email so that we can get back to you. So there isn't a registration that's necessary there.
Okay. Where can we find
take the
information for
question?
BOCES training? How do I get BOCES training? We've asked, this question's been asked a couple of times. The best place for that is Charter School Weekly. I'm under the impression David Frank's on the call. We can certainly find out if he's got more information for us. But right now, I know there's a series of trainings. You can get specific training on how to use the various BOCES portals for all the information and submitting the staff assignments. And your best resource to get the list of training dates and times is Charter School Weekly. More specific question, what if this is a charter with multiple locations and the employee does a split assignment between two schools?
If they're two charter schools and they have two different beds codes, each school should load that teacher into staff assignment. The teacher will still only have one PIN, one TA account. When they log into their account, if each of those charter schools indicated that that teacher works there, they're going to see two PMF forms. They're going to have to fill out each one.
Only if they have separate.
Okay, on slide 20, is it required that teachers enter their current salary? And what are the consequences if they don't?
Yes, and they won't be able to submit the form.
That's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
We have some ask for clarification on the NYSED timeline. Staff evaluation October 16th, data due October 23rd, certification form due. Just clarify the difference for us.
I think that the October 16th date is the lockdown, the deadline for the staff evaluation data to be submitted. The form should have an October 23rd deadline. I don't have the calendar in front of me. It's actually the TLE office that handles that, but the later date is when the certification form is due, not the data.
Is there an exhaustive list of non-instructional titles in a school that should be reported through EPMF? For example,
Yeah.
should we report the Director of Operations or outsource to non-instructional staff?
That's a good question. The answer is the list is based on the non-teaching assignment codes that you can find on, I think it was the third from the last slide in the presentation that has the resources. There's an Excel file there as well as the PDF that if the person doesn't fit into one of those assignments, then they're most likely not going to be reported. There are a lot of questions about what constitutes a non-professional staff person, and I would really refer them to look at those. They're not going to be, maintenance people or cafeteria people or clerical people. Generally, you'll be able to find them in one of those assignments in those categories.
We still have several questions about how new teachers get their PINs for the TAA and uploading the staff snapshot data. Sorry, I have the hardest time saying that. The staff assignment sheet, again, is going to be entered through a portal in the BOCES, the Eastern BOCES programs and applications. The best opportunity, or your best result here is by signing up for training to make sure you know how to use their system. There is no more DOE staff snapshot. It's been replaced with the BOCES program. New teachers will get their PINs after the staff snapshot is uploaded, which obviously is what provides the system with the information that you have new teachers. Last year's teachers returning, once again, will use last year's email and access information, and there will be an administrator who's ever been assigned as the administrator in your school will have access to get those email addresses and access points. We asked about the exhaustive list. There's a question, do we need to submit a snapshot again? I'm not quite sure what the question is, but my impression is that we submit this every year.
Yes, you will, and districts, BOCES, charter schools can submit new records as snapshots throughout the school year.
We have a question. What is the format in which FRPL data is entered?
The free and reduced price lunch data is entered as a head count on the BEDS IMF form, and it's separated into K6 and 712. Separate counts for free and separate counts for reduced.
Okay. Yeah, it's been asked if everyone will get a copy of the PowerPoint. So just a technical response, absolutely. We're going to send this out to everyone who's on the call, but also it will be posted along with a recording of the webinar itself on the Charter Center website in the resource library. Will there be an option in the staff count table for staff who wish to not to report their ethnicity?
Yes, good question. It says on the template that race ethnicity is an optional field, so they don't have to report that if they don't want.
What data is needed? Oh, I just lost my place. What data is needed for a non-instructional assignment?
The non-teachers are submitting the same staff snapshot data by and large for the teachers. The template identifies which fields are required and which fields are required by the particular type of staff person. The assignment code, again, will come from that list of non-teaching assignments. For example, if they're a guidance counselor, they're going to use the code for guidance counselor in staff assignment. The Eastern Suffolk BOCES can really assist with this, and I suggest you work closely with them on staff snapshot and staff assignment.
Could you give us a little bit more clarification? Which data in the overall BEDS survey comes from the 2014-15 school year, and what is reported as a snapshot based on BEDS Day, October 7th, 2015?
I can tell you that, let's go back to the free and reduced price lunch data. So that would be students who are eligible as of BEDS Day. So that would be in the current school year, the 15-16 school year. Some of the data that's collected on the IMF is what we call lag data. For instance, the suspension data would be a count of students suspended during the 14-15 school year. And each of those, any item that is lag data on the IMF form is clearly labeled. So,
and just one further clarification on that. So the snapshot is as of October 7th, and all teacher assignments are being reported as of that date or as of 2014-15?
If you're talking about the BEDS EMF system and the EPMF system, it's this year, the current school year. The PMF is based on this. It's a 15-16 school year collection of their assignments. The IMF forms that Ellen was talking about earlier that collects the aggregate data, some of that is lagged from prior year, some of that is current year. I think it says on the forms and the instructions.
it's clear, yes. There's a question about expanded, what qualifies as expanded learning.
Hi, everybody from SED and our schools. I have two questions. One, do teaching assistants do any data reporting, formerly known as paras?
Not in the PMF system. I'm glad you brought that up. We don't want any information from teaching aides or teaching assistants. The only way they would be able to put it in there is if you sent up a staff snapshot record and a valid teach ID for that person.
Thank you. And I have another question. I see that you have the core, not core. What about some of the more esoteric courses that are offered, such as chess, yoga, gardening, where there would not be a matching code, an SED code for this? How do the schools report those?
If they can't find
And their regular courses.
Yeah, if they can't find it in the PMF, the 700 PMF code, they would not be reporting that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, David, we know that you're on the call. David Frank, to everyone. Welcome back.
Yep. Thank you.
And I believe that you could comment, you put into the questioning series a couple of ideas and some response actually to earlier questions. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so the easiest way to learn about the Eastern Suffolk BOCES system, which is really designed to save your schools time and money, is to register for one of our training sessions. The best way to do that, it's a two-step process, is just to go to the Eastern Suffolk BOCES website that they've set up for us. It's nyccharterdataCentral.esboces.org. It's also, as Randall said, in the C Weekly. It's been in the C Weekly for the last few weeks. And you just need to create an account. Should take a minute or two, and then go to the calendar tab up at the top and just register for a training. We don't have a webinar up on the calendar just yet, but we're going to be adding it in the next few days. Right now all the trainings are in-person trainings, and we know that some people, their schedules just won't allow them to attend. But we will have those webinar trainings, and then we'll record them and put them up on the DOE website and send a link out in the C Weekly. So make sure you pay attention to the C Weekly. But if you go to nyccharterdataCentral.esboces.org, you can register for an account, you can register for a training, and you can also see the myriad of resources that the Eastern Suffolk BOCES has up on the website. Also, they're very customer service oriented, so if you have any questions about this, any questions at all, and I don't know if Tracy Davey will be upset with me saying this, I think she would want me to, but their phone number is area code 631-218-4134. That's 631-218-4134, and they can answer any questions you have about registration or about their system that they have. They're more than happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much, Randall.
Oh, thank you, David, for clarifying. All right.
You're welcome.
How does an art teacher or music teacher enter their codes per grade or all grades?
I'm sorry, where is that question? Would you repeat that, please?
I think the question is, does an art teacher or music teacher enter their codes by grade level or for all grades for BEDS purposes?
Each class separately.
Yeah, they would report the grade level for each assignment separately, whatever that happens to be. So if they're teaching, if the question is about should they combine classes, the answer is no. If they have 6 different music classes and they have different grade levels in each, they should choose the grade level that's appropriate for each of the different assignments. Yeah, I want to be really clear on that again. Don't add classes together just because you're teaching multiple sections of the same assignment. List them out individually.
Great, thank you. We have a request for a link to the page offering BOCES training. By all means, when we send out the webinar, we'll make sure you have links to the various pages that you'll need, including we'll pull the piece out of Charter School Weekly to make sure you can see what the whole listing of potential trainings is that's offered through their work. Just for clarity. Okay. What if a teacher leaves the school sometime between 10:07 and 1:29 do we still submit it?
Yeah, the guidance we've been giving is if they were there and responsible for the class up until the time the PMF closes. It's generally been 3 months. But if the teacher's there and that assignment has not been counted for in the PMF system, we'd still like a count of the assignment, even if that teacher wasn't actually in there on that day. I think you can find that in the
What if a class
instructional.
has both 11th and 12th graders in it?
Yeah, the PMF system doesn't allow them to choose multiple grade levels, so they would have to use the mixed secondary or mixed middle or mixed elementary.
And if a teacher teaches more sections than the ePMF allows, that sounds like a lot of sections. Should there be any preference for which are listed or prioritizing them?
Yeah, that used to be an issue. The bubble sheets only had room for eight different assignments. For most people, that wasn't an issue, but I was told for health education and some of these other classes, it wasn't enough. So the IT team has expanded the application to go up to 16 assignments. So I think that should be able to capture everybody.
All right. Not sure if you actually addressed this one because I'm trying to read these at the same time. If a new hire comes on after the snapshot is loaded, how do we add them, or do we add them?
You've got a couple of things. If whether they came in after the first staff snapshot or you forgot to put them in, you can. Staff snapshot used to be refreshed weekly. Now it's refreshed daily. So you would have to work with the RIC as well about how often they're going to load new staff snapshot records. But you can load a teacher in if they didn't fill out a form and that assignment wasn't counted for in the next staff snapshot load, and then they can go in and fill out the ePMF form. So you do have some flexibility in the fact that it's really open through January.
One more time, confirm whether or not teaching assistants or teachers teaching only non-core subjects should be listed on this, need to be listed.
No teaching assistants, no teacher aides.
And non-core
Yes.
subject teachers?
Yes. Yeah, they're going to be, we're collecting core as well as non-core assignments. So if they take a look at the assignment booklet, the PDF, they'll be able to see if courses are designated as core, not core, and there will be some assignments in there that the district or charter school will identify that may be a core assignment. But they're reporting all of the assignments on that booklet, whether or not they're a core.
We're still getting questions about how to get into the BOCES application and other things. Just remember, after the webinar is closed, it will be posted on the Charter Center website in the resource library. We'll send a copy of this and the related links that you'll need to everybody who's on the call. I think we've covered most of the questions, unless there's a couple of new things still coming in. So, other comments from the SED team?
No, I think we covered most of that thoroughly. From the teacher staff team, I'd just like to say we did spend a lot of time this summer putting resources on both the IRF page as well as the data support page. So for teachers and administrators, I would suggest they bookmark those pages. for the people responsible for submitting and moving staff snapshot, staff assignment, any of the other staff, any level 2 data up to the state data warehouse, Eastern Suffolk BOCES is really in the best position to assist with that. I'll ask Ellen if there's anything else we forgot concerning the IMF side.
I don't think so. Our contact information is available in the slide deck here. And if anyone has any questions as we're moving along, please send them in to us, contact us, and we will get you an answer as soon as we can.
Okay, before we go, we have a couple of other things. There have been 2 or 3 questions about what qualifies as expanded learning time, or the alternative part of that question is there a standard school time frame that we should use to judge how much our extended time and what's considered a normal school day?
Well, each school provides that information to us on that expanded question 29. They tell us how many minutes are required in their school day. There's quite an extensive, also the instructions are available. They are available on our website. Again, you'll find the link to the instructions in the slide deck material. There's quite detailed instructions there, and if anyone doesn't find an answer to their question there, please contact us.
Okay, so in that guidance there will be some kind of guidelines, if you will, pardon the repetition, of what constitutes a standard school day, or whether or not an extended school day based on the mandated school day of the charter school counts for expanded learning time or not.
They are going to provide the required number of minutes for each grade to be in their school in Part B of the question. They're going to tell us what their regular required number of minutes are per grade.
And then how do we count, what do we call expanded day or extended day?
Would be any additional minutes beyond their required number of minutes. Anything beyond their required that they are going to report to us.
One more question from Carol.
When you guys come out with the reports of, you know, uncertified, not highly qualified, or certified, not highly qualified, what happens if there have been changes? There might be pending applications with the Office of Teaching. And in addition, there have been occasions where teachers have put in the wrong Social Security number, and therefore their SED teach information does not come up. How will a school rectify this, and at what point in time?
That's a good subject. I'm glad you brought that up. Concerning the highly qualified, as we've done in prior years, we do provide a review period. You're not providing the Social Security number the way they have in prior years with the bubble sheet. We've moved to the Teach ID just for security reasons. So if the Teach ID is incorrect, first of all, we shouldn't have some of the issues that we've had in prior years, because when data is submitted up to the data warehouse, they're verifying or validating that Teach ID against the Teach database. So you shouldn't be able to push people up with a bad Teach ID. There's instances where you use somebody else's Teach ID, but, you know, aside from that, as you're aware, there were in the new law last year, there's an expanded list of assignments that would count toward charter school teachers being exempt from which was the 530 exemption. So we're working to program in those different assignment codes, whether there's math and science or technology and so on. But to get more direct to what your question was, we're going to give a review period and allow the administrators to be able to examine the data and clean it up. I think the other part of your question was, what if their certification came in later? They're really supposed to have certification on Beds Day, well, in fact, at the beginning of the school year when they're assigned to the classes. I think there's, as the system operates now, there might be a little leeway in there, but if they got certification in March and they indicated that they were teaching an assignment on Beds Day, they're going to get kicked out and they're going to come up as not being certified for that assignment.
Well, the state is still issuing certificates now for this school year for people who applied in the spring and the summer. So it's going to show as pending, but they will come through, particularly with the Trans B certificates. So I just wanted to make sure that although it will show as pending now, when they do come through in 2 months, I'm hoping, that it will be able to be rectified when the schools review their reports and then resubmit.
You're saying that there's a 2-month lag in the time that they've applied to the time that they're granted certification?
Particularly with Trans B.
Trans B. Okay. I'll bring that up
Yes,
with
in
the
some
teacher.
cases, yes, they could have been waiting for a document. Some of the colleges are a little slow in recommending. So, yes, the answer is yes, it can take long.
All right, we still seem to have some confusion about how to list an extended day and what constitutes expanded learning time or extended learning time. Is there a standard, say, for example, the amount of hours required by law that we use as a standard day and everything beyond that is an expanded or extended day? Or do we simply consider the fact that our day is longer than that baseline that we have built in extended hours, and how do we want to show that, or what's the best way to show that on the IMF?
Well, I can read the question to you. So basically, each school needs to make the determination what their required number of minutes are for each grade. So we're asking the school to enter the required number of minutes that each grade was in session during the school year, the entire school year. We're asking them to account for full days and half days of instruction. And we give an example there. So anything beyond that number that they are reporting as their required number of minutes would count as extended time. And that would be reported in a latter part of the question. I guess the question that you're asking is, what is the minimum number of minutes required? I'm not sure that's the issue here. It seems that the program office believes that the school is. Did you want to address that? We have representatives here from the charter school office.
Yes, this is Susan McNabb, and I believe it should be interpreted at the school level as the number of days and hours that are incorporated into the charter, which is the plan, that the school must be following by terms of their agreement with the Board of Regents.
So that could be different for each different school, possibly.
Most of the schools do offer more instructional time than the traditional public school, but if that's what's in their charter, that is the basic agreement. And then many of them offer supplemental programs with extended time for students who need additional services, and that would be extended learning.
So that's really the reason why we're asking each school to report their own unique required number of minutes.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Does that answer the question?
It sounds like that covers it pretty well. Just a reminder to everyone on the call, we will be sending out the questions that have been asked. We'll group them into topics and make sure that you get a response to them overall. There has been a question about, is there a way to mass download teach IDs from the site, or does this have to be done individually, teacher by teacher?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again? Was it
Is there a
about
way
a
to
group assignment?
download Teach IDs for a group, for an entire staff on a mass download from the site, or do they have to do it teacher by teacher?
Your staff snapshot template would have all your teacher IDs. Are you saying the district wouldn't know what their, or the charter school wouldn't know what their teacher IDs are ahead of time? Because that's not something we can do. We get the teach IDs from you based on what you've loaded in staff snapshot.
Yeah, it's our experience here in Teacher Certification Office that you have to do this individually. There is no mass download of Teach IDs. We just want to make sure there wasn't some secret that we hadn't heard. There are some people who must have come on a little bit late, so let me just remind you that the staff snapshot, or what we're now calling the staff assignment, is not available as a form that you can download from the IRS portal or from the DOE. This is now applicable, or it's an application through the Eastern BOCES portal, and we will send out, again, the links and the how-to, along with the links to pick up a training session on those right after this is completed. Last question that I see here right now: if you are a new school without 1415 data, will the form allow you to move on to the other components that are applicable to your school?
You will have to enter zeros in those fields in order to move forward.
All right. Oh, one more question. If yeah, a couple of people came on late. Yes, in response to the question about will there be ways to get the BOCES training, even if you can't attend the in-person ones, and the answer is yes. If I'm not mistaken, and David, you can weigh in once again, that there will be alternative online or other ways to get trained on how to use the BOCES portal.
That's correct. We're going to not only have in-person trainings, but the same training will be available via a live webinar, and will also be available through the C-Weekly and on the DOE's website in a recorded form. I personally think you get the most out of an in-person training, but like I said, we realize that people, their schedules don't permit it, so we will have alternative means to participate, and more information will be coming out shortly.
The smoothest sales pitch ever. Thank you, David.
Thanks.
All right. I think that about covers the questions. We're coming close to the end of the time that we allotted for today. So unless Ellen, Jeff, or the team there, and greetings to Ms. Megna, thank you for joining us. Unless there's anything else you have to say, we'll close today's webinar.
I don't have anything else. Again, the resources are available. This was, I'm glad we had the opportunity to do this because there are a lot of moving pieces, as you know, particularly with staff data. There's new elements and templates, and as we're being pushed by either state or federal legislation to collect new things, unfortunately, we have to pass the pain down the line. So we appreciate all the assistance with, supplying us with complete and accurate data.
I just wanted to add our thank you on behalf of the State Ed team here. Thank you for inviting us to participate in the webinar today.
Well, you're most welcome, and we thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Absolutely, the charter sector is quite prepared and familiar with sharing pain and making sure that everything gets done in the best way that we can do it. All right, and with that, we thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.